Welcome to Pike Creek Farm. Today we are going to make high protein bagels. It is early and my son is here visiting and he loves some bagels that I make. I always make the everything bagels, and these are super easy with two main ingredients, and they're high protein and not too unhealthy for you. First, you start with the flour. I'm doing a double batch, so it's 2 cups of flour. And then you add your baking soda, and you want to make sure it's fresh baking soda and salt, and I have them mixed in together. I will have the link to the recipe down below. So adding in the baking soda and kosher salt. You want to use kosher salt or pink Himalayan salt, something like that, not regular table salt. And now, this is what does the magic. You got to use Greek yogurt, and you want to use a nice thick one. And this is the one that I use. And I've used 0%, and I've used 5%. I've used all different percentage of fat, and they all work out great and taste the same basically too. So it's 1 cup for each batch of this recipe. And so since I'm doubling it, I will need 2 cups of the plain Greek yogurt. And make sure it's Greek yogurt, not regular yogurt. It will not turn out the same. Your dough will be too loose. So here I am adding the first one, and then I will add a second one. And these bagels are so easy, and they're not traditional bagels that are boiled and then baked. It is just one step. And they don't have to rise or anything, and they're just baked in the oven. And I have done different flavor profiles with this too. I've added minced garlic to the dough. I've added dried onion. I have put just sesame seeds on top or made salt bagels. So it's up to you, but the everything bagel seasoning that has salt is our family's favorite. Here is the 2nd cup of yogurt. And now we need to mix this up. And it becomes kind of very tacky, and it is very crumbly. I start off with the Danish whisk, dough hook, whatever you call it. This thing I use so much. I bought it on Amazon, and I use it for making bread all the time. I really like it. It does a great job. And here I'm just trying to incorporate the yogurt into the flour and baking soda and salt. You can use self-rising flour and not use baking soda and salt, but I never buy self-rising flour, so I just add those 2 things. And this is the point, once you get it all mixed up, you could add any flavorings you want to the dough. You could do fruit in it, like if you wanted to use freeze-dried fruit that you rehydrated a little bit. You could make blueberry bagels. I've never done that, but you could. I don't prefer the sweet bagels, so that's just my personal preference. Now, Jim would probably be pretty happy if I made some cinnamon raisin ones. So I am going to switch utensils to the best ones there are, and that is your hands. First, I'm going to pull out my cutting board. My neighbor just made this for me. I just love it. It's made out of cherry, I believe is what he said, and it's just so nice to work on. I'm going to add some flour, and then I'm going to take my hands and mix up this dough. So, because it's like kind of crumbly right now. And I'm going to get it so it starts to all stick together, get the little crumbs that are on the bottom, work through the bigger clumps of yogurt, and it will all become one dough ball. A very tacky dough ball that will stick to your fingers, but it will become a dough ball. And you can see it's starting to take shape here. You don't have to add anything else. Just keep working it. Incorporate those crumbs from the bottom. And I always compare it to kind of like with Play-Doh. You know how you would pick up the pieces of Play-Doh with your big chunk of Play-Doh. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing. I just keep flipping it over and pushing down and picking up all those little crumbs and then incorporating them in. Now we're going to knead it on the floured cutting board. And you don't need a lot of flour. I probably had too much on that than what I needed, but just keep working it in. You want this dough to get to the point where it's not sticking to you, that you can poke your finger in and you don't come out with the dough on your finger. So it takes some working to get to that, and it becomes a pretty nice pliable dough actually. And the big clumps of yogurt get worked into it. So just keep kneading it and pressing it, and it will become smooth and cohesive. So there it is. I'm pretty much there. I'm pushing away the flour now, and I am going to work it so that I can flatten it out into a circle that I will use to cut my pieces to make the bagel. So I'm just getting it so that it feels right to me. And there we go. I have my circle, and I'm going to cut it into 8 pieces. One recipe makes 4 bagels. If you want to make them smaller, you could make 6. But I'm going to make 8, so I'm going to cut it in half first, and then cut each half into 4 wedges. And I need to pull the board out a little bit there. And now we're going to do the other 4. And then what you do is you take each wedge, and oh, by the way, I have my cookie sheet that I have put parchment paper on. I almost didn't this time because it's that Pampered Chef one, but I didn't want to take a risk of it not working right, so I put the parchment paper and you spray it with some spray oil or whatever you use. And then you take each wedge, and I kind of make it like I used to make Play-Doh when I was a kid, just roll it between your hands and shape it into a nice log, and then take the ends and pinch them together. So I will just keep rolling out the wedges between my hands and then connecting them after I get them to be a nice even shape, and then putting them on the cookie sheet. So I will end up with 8 bagels doing this. And I just keep grabbing each wedge and, like Play-Doh, just rolling it between my hands and connecting it, making snakes, and then connecting the ends of the snake. It's sort of therapeutic, actually. So it isn't a long process. It goes really quick, and the dough is very easy to work with. So 8 of these will fit on one large cookie sheet with no problem. They don't rise so much that they end up touching. So next, I will take an egg and crack it into a little bowl and beat it up. You can use just the egg white. I just use the whole egg. I've never separated it out. If you have egg whites, you could pour little egg whites into the bowl. But I just take an egg and crack it, whisk it up with a fork, and get it all combined. And then using a basting brush, I will brush the top of each bagel. And it goes real quick. And then I will top them with the everything but the bagel seasoning. You can use any seasoning you want. You can do multiple different kinds. You can have, some sesame seed bagels, some everything bagels, some garlic bagels. You can be as creative as you want with this, which is what makes it fun. So just dab on the egg wash. Well, it's not even a wash, just the egg. And that will help the seasoning stick. I can tell you that one time I thought, well, I'll just spray it with oil and put it on, and it didn't stick. It all fell off after it was baked. So that was a one-time try. So I follow the recipe as written now because it works. So one more to go, and then we put on the topping. I love that silicone pastry brush. It washes up great. It's easy to use. You don't have any like little bristles coming out on your food. So it was a great purchase, and it's from Pampered Chef, but I know you can get other ones too. And now we shake on the seasoning, and I go pretty heavy with it because some of it will fall off and some goes in the middle, and we like them well seasoned. We don't want just a barely bit of seasoning. We like it pretty heavy and to have a lot of flavor. So do whatever your family prefers, because every family has their own personal taste. So just follow what your family likes. And you can make your own everything but the bagel seasoning too with exactly what your family likes. So here we go. I'm just about done sprinkling on the seasoning. I have my oven preheated to 375, and these will bake for 20 to 25 minutes. They will get a nice golden brown on the bottom and on the top. I like them to be done, as you can see here. And before I could do the video, 2 were already taken to be eaten. The men in the family take these quickly. So these are the bagels, and I'll show you how I served mine. I added some cream cheese, some smoked salmon, then a slice of fresh garden tomato, then some thinly sliced red onion. I couldn't find my capers. I had capers, but I couldn't find them. I seasoned with some salt and pepper because you got to have that on a tomato. That's just, a must-have when you have a fresh garden tomato. And there's the finished product. So thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you next time at Pike Creek